Hi, beautiful people. Happy New Year. It's been a long break on the reading of our book, The Praying Mom. I welcome you into the new year. For you and I, this year is blessed and it's going to be full of pleasant surprises in Jesus' name. So we are fully back to the reading of a book. How have you been doing? How have you been keeping the faith? I pray that God will keep you and I standing till the end in Jesus. So on the reading of our book, we stopped at page 35 and I want to dive right into it. And so I want to remind us of the last point we noted here. We talked about the partnership of God with our prayer, that God needs, if there is a man to pray, there is a God to answer. God has given us so much power and authority as human beings here on earth that he almost will not be able to intervene or do some things here on the earth except a man prays. And that is to let us know how important our prayer is. And so let's continue. When I was just learning to pray, I often find myself thinking about people or situations, and despite my best efforts, wasn't able to get them out of my mind. So here the writer was saying that most of the times when people's thoughts comes into her mind, she finds herself thinking about these people and do not know the next thing to do. And then she realized that when people's thoughts comes to her mind like that, God is prompting her to stand for those people in the place of intercession. And this happens to me a lot of times too. I don't know about you. Maybe I might just be doing something and the thought of somebody comes to mind, and then I begin to pray for that person, and then I begin to pray in tongues. And when I begin to pray in tongues, my understanding becomes fruitful. And then God begins to give me a direction. And then I begin to pray about something. I remember one time like that, I was praying for one of my ministers in church, and God was actually telling me about opening the doors of the nations to that person. And then I began to pray and shared with the person's wife, and you won't believe it. Shortly after that, God began to pave way for that person, and he began to travel all over the world. So God needs intercessors. There's a lot of burden in the heart of God towards us, his children, and he daily looks for people he wants to prompt to pray about this. So we need to be sensitive and alive in the spirit. And so the whole episode reminds me of the story. Okay, so now let us consider the book of Samuel, First Samuel, looking at the story of Eli and Samuel. So I'm going to be reading First Samuel 3. One day, Eli, whose eyesight was failing, was lying in his usual place before the lamp of God had gone out. Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was located. Then the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, "Here I am." He ran to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me." "I didn't call you," Eli replied. "Go back and lie down." So he went and lay down, and once the Lord called Samuel, Samuel got up. So this process happened about 3 times, and the third time, Eli sensed that it was God calling Samuel. So Eli said to Samuel, "If he calls you again, just say, 'Speak, Lord.'" See, then Eli understood that the Lord was calling the boy. He told Samuel, "Go lie down. If he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" That's First Samuel chapter 3 verses 2 to 9. That is the story of Samuel and Eli. My friend suggested the reason I couldn't get people or events out of my mind was because God was calling me. So just like God was calling Samuel, because he had a message for the children of Israel and there was nobody listening. Eli at that time was old. His children were not brought up well in the way of the Lord. He wasn't in a state to listen. Samuel was still young, with a young man, and God needed somebody to talk to, and he was calling Samuel. So this writer suggests that when someone's thought or an idea is running through our mind, that might be God calling us and saying, "I have a message." So once you begin to think, God is saying, "I have a message for this person. I have a burden. There is something that needs to be bettered at this time." And that's why you're thinking about that thing or about that person. And what you're expected to do at that time is just begin to pray. Pray for understanding, that your understanding becomes fruitful about this issue. Then you begin to pray. Since we're just starting today, I think we should just conclude on this note, because I think God is actually trying to minister to me as well. And I hope he's doing that to you too. This is a call for us to be sensitive in our spirit, man. When an idea comes to mind, when the thought of somebody comes to mind, this is God calling you, just like God called Samuel in the book of 1 Samuel 3 from verses 1 to 9. If you read that, this might be God calling you that I am about to birth something new through this idea. Are you available to pray about it? Are you available to try it? I am about to do something new in the life of this person, and this, my dear son, is so busy right now that he can't hear. Can you just help this person to pray? Or something is about to happen to somebody. Can you just be active active in the place of prayer, sensitive enough to pick this thing and pray about it. This is indeed a call to intercession. If you know that intercession is your ministry, if you know you have passion for people, to intercede for people, you don't joke with promptings in the spirit. You always have to be at alert in the spirit at every time as much as possible. And this will be all for tonight. I promise to come again your way before the end of the week, because I want us to read this book very fast so that we can move to another exciting book. I have discovered new books that I would love us to read together. So until I come your way again, stay active, stay alert in the spirit, be available and ready to listen to what the Father has to say. Bye for now, and stay disciplined and motivated.